So the UFC in 2020 has given us some amazing submissions, and I thought in today's video I'd go through my top 5 submissions of the year in the UFC in 2020, because again, much like my top 5 robberies video, my passion and anger and excitement to make this video and tell you guys the top 5 real submissions of the year is because the UFC on their channel put out their best of 2020 recap show, and some of the people and submissions that they put forward for submission of the year is absolutely shambolic. I don't know what they're doing. I know exactly what they're doing, to be honest with you guys. They're filling quotas. Let's be real. They're just trying to give awards to as many different people as they possibly can. I'm going to tell you the top 5 real submissions of the year, starting with number 5, ending with number 1, and including many honorable mentions down the list as well. We'll get to them at the end and I'll speed run through all of those. But starting with number 5 on my list of top 5 submissions of the year, Deiveson Figueiredo in a title fight where a title is on the line, the flyweight world championship, almost kills Joseph Benavidez with a rear naked choke. Now, I know rear naked chokes don't really belong in crazy submission of the year scenarios, but this was one of the most brutal rear naked chokes I've ever seen, maybe in history, because I genuinely believed for a couple of seconds that maybe Joseph Benavidez had passed on to the other side. Now, we still need to see that trilogy, don't get me wrong, because he's not quite dead yet, but Joseph Benavidez in that rear naked choke, that was just absolutely devastating. And let's not forget, submissions are hard to come by in championship level fights. I mean, there is a level of jiu-jitsu at the moment that a lot of people have in these championship level bouts that is just enough to keep them out of being submitted at that level, which is why we see so little of them. But Deiveson Figueiredo rear naked choke Joseph Benavidez, that was with a bunch of attempts before then and a bunch of absolute murdering before that thing ever happened in the first place, which is why it's only at number 5, regardless of being a championship bout. Deiveson Figueiredo's rear naked choke on Joseph Benavidez was something out of a horror film, and it needs to be mentioned. That's number 5 on my list. Moving on up the list to number 4, and this one is not in a championship bout, but it was so amazing that it belongs on my top 5 submissions of 2020. Jimmy Flick's flying triangle against Cody Durden. Now, I know what you're going to tell me. Technically, it wasn't a flying triangle. I understand that it wasn't technically a We're going to have to ignore that, okay? Because it's called a flying triangle, and I know it wasn't locked in before he hit the ground, and we've seen Paddy Pimblett over at Cage Warriors lock that in as soon as he jumps to it and then roll the guy over into a triangle on the floor. But he hit the floor, he set up the triangle mid-air, and he cinched it up once he hit the ground, and it was an amazing flying triangle to have, and it only happened recently as well, so it's still very much embedded in my mind towards the end of 2020. So I feel like Jimmy Flick's flying triangle to be the only guy to get one in the UFC so far, even though it wasn't technically a perfect flying triangle and didn't meet all quotas to be called that, it was still an amazing submission that ended with a triangle after jumping up for it in the middle of the air. Jimmy Flick's triangle over Cody Durden is a thing of beauty, and it deserves a position on the list of top 5 submissions of the year, and it also got him a bonus as well. So if that doesn't, I mean, if your submission doesn't get you a bonus, I mean, what really are you doing? But Jimmy Flick's triangle against Cody Durden, very amazing. Number 4 on my list. It was just so amazing that it overtook Figueiredo's championship submission. But number 3 on my list of top 5 submissions of the year, this was the actual submission of the year according to the UFC, which I thought was crazy. But Aljamain Sterling's rear naked choke against Corey Sandhagen, amazing, and deserves to have a position on the top 5 submissions of the year. This is my number 3 submission of the year so far, or the year's over, so I guess this is my number 3 submission of 2020. Aljamain Sterling, rear naked choke against Corey Sandhagen. I don't know how they could possibly find any way whatsoever in their souls to put this at number 1 of the year. That just seems crazy to me, but what do you know? Matt Serra's on the fucking panel to decide who gets it, so obviously there's no bias there, right, UFC? But still, Aljamain Sterling's rear naked choke against Corey Sandhagen, beautiful. The level of competition was there as well. Corey Sandhagen is a great scrambler. He's out-scrambled guys like Rafael Assunção in the grappling department in that division, has escaped many dangerous submissions in his career. He almost got armbarred at one point in his career, but survived it due to his prowess in submission defense. But Aljamain Sterling went out there, top contender fight, title elimination bout. I hope, if they're gonna, I swear, if they don't give Sterling a title shot, but it was a title elimination bout. We all know it was. Sterling went out there and shut him down and got a rear naked choke in the first round with no effort whatsoever. So, yeah, really, really impressive from Aljamain Sterling. Not number 1 of the year, because there are so many other amazing ones, But definitely top 3 and number 3 on my list, Aljamain Sterling, steamrolling Sandhagen. Even if you don't think that happens 10 out of 10 times when they fight, it was still spectacular. You have to give it credit. Even though it was a rear naked choke, of course. Championship level fight, kind of, basically, because who knows who's going to win out of Yan and Sterling. It's a very close matchup. Title elimination bout. Sterling rear naked chokes Corey Sandhagen. Now moving on to number 2 on my list. And this one is a championship level bout, not a title elimination one. Deiveson Figueiredo's guillotine against Alex Perez got no love in the submission of the year conversation whatsoever, and I have no idea why. It was a thing of beauty. He rolled right over after Perez thought he had Figueiredo's back. I've never seen a guy go from such an advantageous position in a grappling scenario to being tapped just a couple of seconds later. I mean, Deiveson Figueiredo rolled right over, went straight to the arm in guillotine, I believe it was, or then the arm came out and Perez was just about to escape the guillotine, but it was just so brutally tight and he had it locked in and he made Alex Perez tap immediately into the fight as well, similar to the Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen situation. Amazing, amazing submission for Figueiredo. Not to mention he went for the leg first and did that crazy reversal sweep position against the cage to get the leg of Perez to set up this whole submission in the first place. So it was just an amazing exchange of grappling. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Figueiredo grabbed the cage. And I understand that. He did grab the cage. I don't think it entirely led to the submission, because if you're going to get rolled over and guillotine like that, you're kind of going to get rolled over and guillotine like that. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, he touched the cage, so that means he just levels above you when it comes to that. I feel like the cage didn't really directly impact the fight, although it is a factor. But I'll tell you this as well, to have Deiveson Figueiredo at number 2, and people say that, hey, he doesn't belong there, he grabbed the cage a little bit. Aljamain Sterling climbed up the cage with his foot to get on Sandhagen's back. I just want to get that off my chest, because I don't feel like anyone's mentioning that, and I might be the first person to tell you this, but Aljamain Sterling stuck his toes in the cage, climbed up the cage and pushed off of it to get his leg around Corey Sandhagen's waist while Sandhagen was standing. So if you really want to get technical about calling out Figueiredo for patting on the cage to stabilize himself, which is basically what it came down to before he went for that leg sweep, then you've got to kind of hold Aljo accountable for sticking his foot in and literally levitating himself up. Watch the fight again. He sticks his toes in, he climbs up the cage, and that's how he's able to get his leg around Corey Sandhagen's waist, because Sandhagen is a tall guy. And now I'm thinking about it, that's why it was probably so unexpected for Corey Sandhagen, and he didn't see it coming whatsoever, because he's standing up. He's a really tall guy for the bantamweight division. He probably thinks there's no way this guy can take my back from here. Aljo springboarded himself off the cage. Like, he climbed up that shit. Like, it's got to be mentioned here, I feel like, a little bit. But you know what? Little things like that happen. And sometimes people care and sometimes people completely ignore it. So, yeah, this has kind of put something weird, a little bit of a weird energy on this list. But I'll tell you this, Aljamain's rear naked choke at number 3, amazing anyway. And also Deiveson Figueiredo's guillotine against Perez sits at number 2 on my list. And now we get to the number 1 submission of the year. Not even mentioned in the submission of the year conversation on that UFC recap show. I have no idea what on earth they are doing, but Khabib Nurmagomedov's triangle against Justin Gaethje was just amazing. And not to mention the triangle against Justin Gaethje, but basically had an armbar against Justin Gaethje anyway. It was basically 2 submissions in one night that he had over Justin Gaethje, because a couple of seconds left in that first round, and Khabib's got a first round armbar submission over Justin Gaethje easily. And then he goes for the triangle on top, rolls to his back with it, starts at an inverted stage, then goes to his back, puts himself in a terrible position in a championship fight with his undefeated legacy on the line. Khabib Nurmagomedov taps Justin Gaethje. I know I predicted it to happen so easily on the ground as soon as they got there with the submission, but it was still so surprising to me to see that happen. It was amazing. It was a championship level bout in arguably the most talent-stacked division in the UFC ever and overall. And he just goes right through Gaethje's guard, sinks up the triangle, rolls to his back, and chokes out Justin Gaethje. And not really chokes out. He made Gaethje tap out, but the referee wanted to make sure Gaethje was dead for some bizarre reason. So Khabib Nurmagomedov, number 1 on my list of top 5 submissions of 2020. Amazing submission over Justin Gaethje. The level of competition is there. The title fight is there. The legacy building moment is there as well. Everything's on the line. He gets the submission with ease, and it's a triangle on top of that and everything else. Not a guillotine from Figueiredo in a championship bout, not a rear naked choke from Aljo in a title elimination, not a Rear naked choke from Figueiredo in a title bout as well. It was a triangle. I think it tops the other ones and the skill levels there. Khabib gets #1 submission of the year 2020. And now some honourable mentions. Glover Teixeira rear naked chokes Thiago Santos. Let's just get straight through all of these. Glover Teixeira rear naked chokes Thiago Santos in a comeback win. Not really a comeback win because he won some rounds, but he got rocked badly at the start of that round, turned it around, got the rear naked choke in there. Amazing from Glover Teixeira. Charles Oliveira versus Kevin Lee. Got the guillotine. Amazing performance before then with all the submission attempts that he went for, which makes the submission even better in my opinion. However, I do need to mention, I kind of give some blame on Kevin. There's a submission where you kind of give blame to the guy who got it done to him. And Kevin Lee did just chuck his head straight into a guillotine, in all honesty, because he was kind of gassing out. But it was an amazing submission, high skill level. Charles Oliveira versus Kevin Lee deserves an honourable mention. Jimmy Crute got a Kimura against Mikhail Alexeychuk. Amazing Kimura as well. Dominated him in the grappling the entire time. Cinched up that Kimura. It's Jimmy Crute's move. He's had it many times before. He submitted Paul Craig with a Kimura as well. And I believe he's got one other Kimura submission in his career that I can't quite remember right now. But Jimmy Crute is definitely a dangerous, dangerous man. And that Kimura submission that he's got and that he used against Mikhail Alexeychuk, amazing performance. Moving on, Juan Espino got a scarf hold against Jeff Hughes. None of these got mentioned in the conversation. None of these are being mentioned. Jimmy Crute got mentioned, I believe, but Juan Espino got a scarf hold against Jeff Hughes. That's a real treat to watch. Juan Espino, amazing submission. Alexander Romanov got a forearm choke. When do you see forearm chokes in the UFC? We got a forearm choke from Alexander Romanov against Marcos Rodrigo de Lima not too long ago. That was an amazing submission. Put him out cold with a forearm and just wait. We haven't seen that in a while. I think it was an amazing submission. Kay Hansen got an armbar, a triangle armbar against Ian Frey. That got mentioned for submission of the year on some websites, so it's top 5, but it was just an armbar against Ian Frey. But, you know, moving on, Damon Jackson got the guillotine against Masad Bektik in a comeback submission, which somehow makes it even cooler. Jack Hermansson got a finish against heel hook against Kelvin Gastelum, which was amazing to watch in the first round. Completely got him to the ground and did whatever he wanted with those legs. It was amazing to watch. So Jack Hermansson deserves some notice. Also, Kenny and Brady, Casey Kenny and Sean Brady, both secured one-armed guillotine choke finishes this year. Amazing performances. Sean Brady did that against Christian Aguilera. I've got the people's names down. I should have written the people that they did it to so I could remember. But I've got Brady did it to Christian Aguilera, and Kenny did it to Lewis Smolka. Both of them one-armed guillotine chokes. You've got to mention one-armed guillotine chokes, in my opinion. Maurice Green versus Gian Vellante. How could we forget the modified choke? Because they don't have a name for it, because you can't submit people that way. So this one should arguably be top 5, in my opinion. But Maurice Green versus Gian Vellante, inventing the Vellante choke on the fly. You can't do it unless the guy that you're facing has got severe high blood pressure and cholesterol levels and enters cardiac arrest while in your arms. But still, Maurice Green, amazing submission. And you've got Chase Hooper, got the comeback heel hook against Peter Barrett. Anthony Smith triangles Devin Clark to redeem his career. Thiago Moises heel hooks Michael Johnson after losing the first round. Mackenzie Dern got a submission against Hannah. This was a submission of the year candidate as well. She got a knee bar. It's against Hannah Cyphers, man. Mackenzie Dern against Hannah Cyphers got a knee bar submission. That was volunteered for a fight for a submission of the year candidate. Like, know what I mean by filling quotas. Aljo #1, Dern #2, you know what I mean? Covering both bases, but still, moving on. Amir Albazi got a triangle submission over Malcolm Gordon, who Suma Dueji also KO'd stiff. I just always remember him from that fight because he went down like a bitch. Paul Craig triangled Gadzi Hermadantigulov. That was a great finish in the first round with a triangle. And then Verdum armbars Gustafsson. No one talks about that one. Got him to the ground, armbarred him. Easy win for Fabricio Verdum. I know not a lot of people like him because he left the UFC and he tested positive for roids. It's a good submission. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I think I covered all of them that I can think of. Click that button up there. Goodbye. Those are the real submissions of the year. So starting number 5, Figueiredo against Benavidez, the rear naked choke. Number 4, Jimmy Flick's flying triangle. Number 3, Aljamain Sterling's rear naked choke. Number 2, Figueiredo's guillotine against Perez. The way he did it, the transition was there. That's number 2 in the championship level fight. And Habib's triangle against Gaethje takes the biscuit at the top. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.